What is up, everybody? Welcome back to week 2 of Final Fantasy previews. I'm going to try and get through as many of these cards as possible. I'm not going to hit on every single card, but I'm going to hit on all the ones that seem kind of interesting or valuable. So let's get into it. First off, we have the lands, and this land I believe completes the cycle of lands where they have an adventure on it. So we have the Lindblum Industrial Regency, and the adventure on it creates a 0/1 Black Wizard creature token with whenever you cast a non-creature spell this turn, deal 1 damage to each opponent. So we've seen other cards in week 1 that ended up giving us a creature token that did this ability. It's cool that we have a land that has that option. This is going to be one of those cards that fits right into those type of spell slinger decks where you're using a lot of non-creature spells, and best part is you can still play it out of the adventure zone area for a regular land tapped, and it gives you a red. We're going into the Gold Saucer, and this one's kind of interesting because it taps for a waste, or you can pay 2, tap, flip a coin. If you win the flip, create a treasure token, and 3, tap, sacrifice 2 artifacts, draw a card. So I think the interesting part here is the ability to sacrifice artifacts, first off, where you're sacrificing things like Thopters or servos or food or whatever in order to get a card. But the flip a coin mechanic is something that I feel like it's been a couple sets since we've seen that last. This card is going to slide into any of those decks where you have a flip a coin. So next up, we're going to talk about a cycle that we've talked about one of them already, but the crystals. So first up, we have the Fire Crystal, 2 red. Red spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, and then creatures you control have haste, which is just automatically kind of sweet. And then for 4 red, tap, create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So it kind of feels a little expensive, but having a leave the battlefield, enter the battlefield, or some while it's on the battlefield effect from a creature happen now twice as many times, that could be pretty cool. I think it's kind of situational, but hands down it's just a great card. I think, really, spoiler alert, all the crystals are really good cards. Then we have the Earth Crystal, so 2 green, and green spells cost 1 less to cast, and if you were to put 1 or more +1/+1 counters on a creature you control, put twice that many. But then you have 4 green, tap, distribute 2 +1/+1 counters among 1 or 2 creatures you control. So that's going to actually give you, for 6, tap, distribute 4 +1/+1 counters because of the double effect here, right? I think this is probably the strongest one, hands down, and I'm excited to see kind of where it falls into play. I think it's just a great card. If you get it, you're playing it in something. Yeah, maybe it's a little too slow for something like Standard or more of those constructed formats, but if you're looking at constructed like Commander, it fits right in. Next up, we have the Wind Crystal, 2 white. White spells you cast cost 1 less, and if you were to gain life, you gain twice that much life instead. And then 4 white, tap, creatures you control gain flying and lifelink until end of turn. So this is probably about the second best one because it's going to give your creatures all lifelink, so you're probably swinging out or close to swinging out, and then you gain twice as much life as that. This is going to be an insane card in like an Orzhov deck. This is going to be an insane card in like a tokens deck. This is going to be just an insane card in any deck that runs. Next up, we have the Water Crystal as our last crystal. So 2 blue. Blue spells cost 1 less to cast, and if an opponent would mill 1 or more cards, they mill that many +4 instead. 4 blue, tap, each opponent mills cards equal to the number of cards in your hand. So kind of cool if you have like a massive deck that gives you unlimited hand size and allows you to draw a crap ton of cards. but I think this is probably the weakest crystal out of all 5 of them. So it's good still, don't get me wrong, but it's not as good as the other ones. The other ones are game changers. This one is like, yeah, it has the potential, but it needs a decent chunk of setup before it really gets going. So next up, let's dive into black cards. So Overkill. Oh, this is one that I've had discussions on. So it's 2 and a black. Target creature gets -0, -9,999 until end of turn, and it's an instant. So a lot of people are really like, it's not that great. We have things like destroy creature, we have things that do exile type of things, but first off, this is worse than exile but better than destroy, because it'll get around indestructible. I think this card is going to be a little bit undervalued in most formats. Something to think about. Next up, we have Goss Van Belzar. So 2 black. When they enter the battlefield, choose 1. Each player sacrifices a creature token of their choice. Each player sacrifices a non-token creature of their choice. Each player sacrifices an enchantment of their choice. And it is a 3/2. I don't think it's a super great card, but I think it has a spot in some situations. Next up, we have Reno and Rude for 1 and a black. Menace. Whenever Reno and Rude deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of that player's library. Then you may sacrifice another creature or artifact. If you do, you may play the exiled card this turn, and mana of any type can be spent to cast it, and it's a 2/1. I think there have been more decks popping up recently that care about stealing stuff from their opponents. I think this is a good card to fit right in those situations. For the most part, it's probably not going to see a lot of play, but it is kind of cool because it does have Menace to give it a little bit of evasion despite it being a 2/1. Now we're diving into blue. So we have Alteros, Obnoxious Octopus for 1 and a blue. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, if at least 4 mana was spent to cast it, tap target creature an opponent controls and put a stun counter on it. Cool. We've seen stun counters make a rise in the last couple sets. But then also, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, if at least 8 mana was spent to cast it, put 8 +1/+1 counters on Alteros. It's a 2/1 by default. So this kind of goes with the deck of the Spell Slinger-ish version that is out there that I've talked about in week 1, where you want to cast those non-creature spells, and if it's 4 mana or more, you get a payoff. But this one goes a little further with the 8 mana or more. Now this dude gets huge, and then it's a finisher. It's an absolute beater. We have Gogo, World Saving Imitator. So I have only the Japanese version here, but XX, tap this creature, copy target activated or triggered ability you control X times. You may choose new targets for the copy. This ability can't be copied, and X can't be 0. So yeah, I think this is going to be an absolute bruiser when you get it off. But I think it's going to be very hard to get that payoff. I think there are specific decks where it may work for you, but 9 times out of 10, you're opening it, you're being like, huh, that's a cool effect, and it's going in a pile never to be seen again. Next up, Lunar Whale, 3 and a blue, and it's a vehicle. Flying, you may look at the top card of your library anytime. As long as the Lunar Whale attack this turn, you may play the top card of your library. So, sweet. Crew 1, awesome. It gives you incentive to make sure you're attacking every turn, and hopefully you get value off the top. Still don't think this is going to save vehicles, but I don't know. We'll see. I think it might be an interesting card just to run and kind of see how it feels as you play it. And also with so many hero cards being created off of other cards, you know, hero tokens, and they have 1 power, the crew is really fairly easy to hit. Now we have Stolen Uniform for a blue. It's an instant. Choose target creature you control and target equipment. Not equipment you control, just target equipment. Gain control of that equipment until end of turn. Attach it to the chosen creature. When you lose control of that equipment this turn, if it's attached to a creature you control, unattach it. So that's a good way to kind of steal an artifact, maybe get in, maybe deal with a painful creature that has certain protection due to a equipment. Maybe it's a way to sacrifice that equipment. Maybe it's a way to beef up your things that care about equipments and artifacts. I think this is going to be a bruiser in basically every format. As long as there's equipment in the format, this one's going to be a killer. Look out for this guy. Next up, this card isn't very strong, but we'll talk about it anyways. Quirquin Merchant, 2 and a blue. So first off, pay 1, tap, draw a card, then discard a card. Or pay 7, tap, sacrifice this creature, draw 3 cards. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each town you control. And that is why I want to talk about it really quick. There are so many towns that are actually making their way into this set as just regular lands that you're going to be pulling out of every single pack, it feels like, that there's probably a deck that has some sub-theme of towns within the set. So if you draw a lot of towns, this isn't a bad idea to use this card. If you don't draw a lot of towns, throw this card away because it's never going to be used ever again. Next up, we have Edgar, King of Figaro. And it's 4 blue. When Edgar enters, draw a card for each artifact you control. That's insane. Just there. Stop there. But then, 2-headed coin. The first time you flip 1 or more coins each turn, those coins come up heads and you win those flips. So that's a great way to get that land that we talked about to always hit for you, right? Great little thing there. Those coin flip decks that I kind of talked about, they're gonna love this card also. The fact that you draw a card for each artifact you control, artifact decks go crazy. And it's a 4/5, so it's beefy, it can swing in, it can protect itself for the most part with that 5 toughness. Now our last blue is Ether, and it's 3 and a blue artifact. Tap, exile this artifact, add 1 blue. When you next cast an instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for that copy. Ooh, there are so many things that I want to use this to try and copy within this set. There's a bunch of red damage spells that doubling the damage or doubling the spells would be insane and just basically win you the game. I don't think this is going to like break its way into a scene and completely ruin formats, but I think, there are some decks out there that is going to be insane. I'm interested if I can actually get it to go off with a red spell that I'm looking forward to casting. Next up, we have Ruban, Bull of Alamigo, and it is 1 in a red first off, and ward, pay life equal to Ruban's power. When Ruban attacks, attach up to 1 target equipment you control to target attacking creature. It's a 2/2, so you can basically free attach equipment to any attacking creature, not just this guy, and if it gets targeted, that person has to pay life equal to its power, which if you start throwing equipment on it, it could be a big pay, and people are terrified of ward, and he's going to live forever unless there's a board wipe. Next up, we have Van, Street Thief, 2 and a red. Whenever 1 or more scouts, pirates, and or rogues you control deal combat damage to a player, exile the top card of that player's library. You may cast it. If you don't, create a treasure token. Whenever you cast a spell you don't own, put a +1/+1 counter on each scout, pirate, and rogue you control. It's a 2/2. So I like that you get a payoff if you do cast it, not only the card that you stole, and if you decide, yeah, I can't cast this card, say a land or something like that, you still get some payoff, a treasure token. I think this card's going to be bonkers. I talked about earlier the steel decks that I've seen come up where I'm trying to play my opponent's libraries rather than my own, because all of mine are just based on stealing my opponent's cards. Be on the lookout for this guy. We have Summon GF Ifrit. It's 2 and a red, and the first 2 parts of the summon is you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card, and then the final 2 is add 1 red. It's a 3/2. I feel like there's an opportunity to break this card, but I feel like for the most part it's not very good, and maybe that is on me, but I'm interested to see kind of where this card goes. There's a lot of things that can manipulate counters on summons in this set. Maybe that's something that ends up breaking this card. Side quest, play Blitzball, 2 and a red. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gets +2 until the end of turn. At the end of combat on your turn, if a player was dealt 6 or more combat damage this turn, transform this enchantment, then attach it to a creature you control. 6 or more damage, not necessarily by one creature, so you can throw multiple creatures at somebody, and it turns into World Champion Celestial Weapon with double overdrive. Your equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has double strike, and there's an equip cost of 3. Kinda sweet. I like that it gives the double strike. This is one of those things where, like, I don't really want to like it, but there's just something calling to me, and maybe it's those 2 words, double strike. Haste magic, 1 and a red. This is an interesting one, and a combat trick to watch out for in those pre-releases, right? Target creature gets +3/+1 and gains haste until end of turn. Exile the top card of your library. You may play it until your next end step. So that seems like kind of a little cool effect there. It gives your creature a crap ton of power, and it gains haste. Okay, that's kind of insane. Exile the top card of your library, and then you can play it until your next end step. Okay, great. Yeah, anything to put a little extra damage on the board and get through, I'm there for. Now we have Queen Brani, and it's 2 and a red with prowess, and then whenever they attack, create one of those 0/1 wizard tokens that we talked about earlier that deals 1 damage to each creature when you cast a non-creature spell. And it's a 2/1 itself. Spellslinger decks probably playing this card, probably thinks it's sweet. Coral Sword for 1 red, and flash when this equipment enters, attach it to target creature you control. That creature gains first strike until end of turn, and equipped creature gets +1/+0. I think this is another goofy little combat trick. You go, you swing in, you bait out something, maybe extra damage or a combat trick that somebody really wants to play. You go, cool, I'm going to flash in Coral Sword. Now I have first strike. I get to go first. Oh, and he also got 1 more power. I think it's going to be a good one. Next up, we have Nebelheim Aflame, 2 and red. It's a sorcery. Choose target creature you control. It deals damage equal to its power to each other creature. If this spell was cast from your graveyard, discard your hand and draw 4. It's like a weird little, what is it, Chandra's Ignition, I want to say. And it has flashback. There's a payoff on the flashback cost. It does deal it to each other creature, so there's potential to kill your own creatures. But I think if you're playing this, you kind of are ready for that, and there's a way to finish out the game. Unless you're really far behind, and this is a way to level out the game. Alright, so I am going to release a part 2 for week 2, and that is going to cover artifacts, green, white, and multicolor. Be sure to check that out when that drops in the next day or so. Until next time, I will catch you all later. Hopefully this helps out, and let's go out there and get the win, right? Peace.